Well, hello once again, my friends, my fellow historians, and my fellow lovers of the SS United States. I would like to welcome you to yet another video. This video is going to feature the roundtable discussion, The Fate of the SS United States. This event took place last night on March 20th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It was located in Tenafly, New Jersey at the high school. There were supporters who made the journey in the audience as well as those attending via the internet. The event was on Facebook from the Coalition's page. You would then be directed to join a Zoom webinar titled An Engaging Discussion on the Legendary SS United States. Personally, I have never attended a webinar before, nor have I ever used Zoom, so I was pretty nervous. However, I was able to attend, but unfortunately, time expired before I could ask my question. I would like to bring you the information that came directly from the members of the Coalition to Save the SS United States. The event would be hosted by Scott Heiler. There would also be statements from the members of the Coalition as well as guests. Those speaking would include James Kaplan, co-founder and director, Dan McSweeney, co-founder, John Quadrosi Jr., preservation partner, Jason Wade, chief preservation officer and social media manager, Michael Lewis, the executive program director, Mary Rohner, secretary, Jim Mahoney, maritime lawyer, Casper Van Hoeren, developer and former co-owner of the SS Rotterdam. This was from 2021 from the SS United States Conservancy. Mike Dempsey, who is a guest speaker. Vince Martell, who is a guest speaker, also the guitarist from the band Vanilla Fudge. Peter Mitchell, guest speaker from London, England. Dr. George Anderson, guest speaker via the internet. Joshua Beaver, a Tenafly High School student. Tracy Huth, a guest speaker via the internet. Tom Steller, a guest speaker. Mike Turcott, a guest speaker. Arlen Edinger, president of Guernsey's New York-based auction house via the telephone. And Fred Rodriguez, a former SS United States crew member. There would be an update on the status of the Coalition, their growing support, plus their plan going forward. There were also ideas of how to save and use the ship from destruction, ranging from the SS United States becoming a holding cell for illegal immigrants to her being used as a more commercial or retail space. With over 600,000 square feet of space, the possibilities would be endless. Some of the guests range from workers aboard the ship to members of classic rock bands. However, there was one guest that really stood out to me. He made his way from England, and his name was Peter Mitchell. And he would bring a warning with him. He touched on a question I had all my life. Now, why on earth would they scrap the RMS Olympic? She was the closest thing to ever having her sister ship, the RMS Titanic, intact. She would be scrapped when White Star merged with the Cunard Line in the early 30s, but that is another video. Peter would say scrapping of the Olympic was the biggest mistake his country ever made. He would say how much England regretted allowing such a great ship to be scrapped. He warned us here that we also have the same regret with us if the SS United States were ever destroyed. That was, in my opinion, the perfect analogy. The destruction of an icon will cause future regret. So this video, my friends, is going to be the addressing of the members of the New York Coalition to Save the SS United States. I thought about summarizing what they had to say. However, I decided to let you hear what they said directly from them. And the following footage will be the statements from all those involved with the Coalition. I hope you find this video informative.
Can you hear it now?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Jim Kaplan. I'm a tax and estates lawyer, but also a writer and walking tour historian. And I'm the chairman of the Lower Manhattan Historical Association, which is a civic group that promotes New York history. And more recently, I'm a director and co-founder of the New York Coalition to Save the SS United States. Unlike other members of our board, I only recently became aware of the issues relating to the SS United States, which I think is true of many New Yorkers, when a colleague of mine told me about the attempt to site the ship on the west side of Manhattan, which had failed, and that it was facing eviction from the pier in Philadelphia where it had been for 28 years. I told my colleague that this sounded like one of the most important historical projects facing the city of New York in my years of experience, and one which we as an organization, the LMHA, should be involved with. We thus contacted our list of participants in prior historical activities, and the first person who called me back was Dan McEnany, who I hadn't known, but I now realize everybody involved with the ship knows him. Another person who came to our meeting was John Quadrosi, who's sitting next to me, who owns a pier in Gowanus, Brooklyn, in Brooklyn, obviously. And I almost immediately received a call from Jason Wade from Arizona, who said he was working full-time on saving the ship. Why he was in Arizona, I never knew, but anyhow. And Michael Lewis, who is in works for the federal government in Washington, D.C. Thus, we had a diverse group, and we thus formed a New York not-for-profit organization called the Coalition to Save the SS United States. Shortly thereafter, once we were just getting organized, I was completely shocked, maybe others were too, to hear that the Conservancy, which had owned the ship, had sold it to Okaloosa County, which was paying $10 million to sink it for an artificial reef. I couldn't believe why the taxpayers of Okaloosa County would agree to pay $10 million to destroy the ship, which is one of America's greatest icons. After some delays, the Conservancy and Okaloosa in February, with great fanfare, has announced that the ship was moving out of Philadelphia to Mobile, Alabama for the first time in 28 years. And this was cited as a great victory on their part in its route to sinking the ship. However, from my point of view, and I think from our point of view, the ship sailing on the open sea where thousands could see it was a great victory for our cause, because thousands of people now saw the ship, they saw what it was like, they saw its majesty, and they also saw how ridiculous it would be to sink the ship. And we began to get numerous hits on our website, and thousands of people signed our petition opposing it. So that's where we are now. At this point, we have asked Okaloosa County and the federal government to reconsider their plan to sink the ship. We've said to Okaloosa County, can't you find another ship? And maybe we all could work together to save the ship. We'd like to work with them. We haven't heard from them yet, but hope springs eternal. We also, I think that the voyage has shown that the overwhelming majority of Americans, probably including many citizens of Okaloosa County, including many people in Alabama and throughout the South who saw the ship fund, agree with us that this ship must be saved, that it's essential to American history and to ourselves. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dan McEnany.
All right, thank you, Jim. Next, we have Dan McSweeney. You want to pass the mic?
Dan McSweeney.
McEnany sounds a little bit better, actually. I think I can go with that. Hey, everybody. How's it going? It's nice to see you. I know some of the people in the audience, and I know probably a lot of the people that are with us online. Also, thanks to our great team in California. They've been doing great work. It's wonderful to be here. And what I did in our little rehearsal when we ran through this is I started with a quote from The Godfather, which is, "Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in." And the reason I say that is I've been involved in the effort to repurpose and save the SS United States since about 1998 or so, when living in New York, I saw on the front page of Cranes, New York, a plan to bring the ship to Manhattan, make it a mixed-use project, including a hotel, restaurants, etc. Subsequent to that, I joined the Marines, and while I was on my way to Quantico in about 1999, I saw the ship in person for the first time in my life. And it was a profound moment for me because I had grown up hearing about the ship, and the ship for me was almost a mythical figure in my life. And the reason for that was that my father had been a crew member aboard the ship. He was originally from the UK and came to New York to work aboard the ship and stayed on for almost the entire career of the vessel. So this ship, for me and for many, many thousands of other people across the country and around the world, is a really important icon. And so what we're doing here tonight is asking ourselves and asking the public at large, can we do anything at this final moment to repurpose this vessel, to save this vessel, to give this vessel a lasting life? I think the answer is yes. And so that's why I've been pulled back in. I want to thank the folks from Tenafly that have done such an incredible job to put this together. They're really impressive. And just like this building that we're in, Tenafly High School, which is a mid-20th century building filled with mid-20th century artifacts, if you will, they're showing us that things like this are important, that repurposing and reusing the elements of our past is not a foolish thing. It's an important thing. It's a valuable thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Next member of the coalition is John Quadrilli.
Hi, everybody. I am classified as a preservation partner in the coalition, the coalition to save the SS United States. I'm also a designer and fabricator, builder by practice, mainly industrial grade trucks, various buildings, even horse stables, and ships too, commercial vessels I've had experience with. I'm also a ship and marine terminal owner, operator with experience in bulk cargoes. And this includes Gowanus Bay Terminal, which is the subject location that we're looking to bring the SS United States. A brief introduction to my interest in the ship goes beyond just the current, but as a boy, I had an Uncle Willie, and my Uncle Willie was fascinated with all things maritime, and one of the things were the great ships. So when I go over his house, he would sit me down and pull out his books with the little flags in the pages and talk about the Andrea Doria, that sunk, the Normandy that burnt in Manhattan that I actually watched as a child. And he talked about the SS United States, which he felt was the greatest ship of all, and often referred to as the fastest ship ever built. When I was approached actually by Dan McSweeney some years ago, back in 2015, our location was considered as a place to put the vessel. And then he brought me back in again in the current time, Dan, and said, hey, the conservancy that once owned the ship no longer owns it. And there's a new opportunity. And then to me, it was just like, okay, so we're getting two shots at saving the ship. So this one we can't mess up. So my opinion is full steam ahead, which is a common phrase used for the ship. I'm hoping that we can work together with everyone here, everyone in the United States, the world, to save the ship, the SS United States. So thank you.
Thank you, John. And now joining us virtually from the coalition is, first up, Jason Wade.
Hello, my name is Jason Wade. I'm the Chief Preservation Officer for the New York Coalition to Save the SS United States. As an ocean liner enthusiast, I've spent basically my entire life studying these giants, superliners, ocean liners, steamships of all types. My interests span Egyptology, paleontology, and documenting urban landscapes. For those of you who don't know, I started out in urban exploring as someone who explores abandoned places and documents them. And so I used to have my page Urbex by Jason, and that led me to the Queen Mary, which I'm so fortunate enough to be on board today. And it reinvigorated my passion for history and preserving ocean liners, and got me interested. I found out about the SS United States and what was going on with her, and felt that I needed to do something. So back in September, I started outreach and congressional, presidential, national parks, doing a lot of deep dive research into Section 106, environmental protections, different federal protections that afforded the ship protection over the last 75 years of her history. As the Chief Preservation Officer, it is my duty to ensure that the SS United States and her legacy are protected and safeguarded for future generations. A lot of people, in my experience, aren't familiar with this ship, and it is our duty in this mission that we're setting out to do to remind people what's important, what's at stake, and that the fact that Big U is not only the world's last superliner, but she is an American symbol of ingenuity and progress and unity. And together with the greater 48 states, this ship was put together. It's a symbol of the American dream, and that anything can happen from any walk of life as long as you apply yourself hard enough. And that's what we're doing here. So being on board the Queen Mary, she'll be 90 years old here soon enough. I'm on board with Mary of QMI, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be here fighting alongside everybody to make sure that we do all we can to save this piece of history before she's gone. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Jason. Next up, we have Mike Lewis.
Hi, I'm Mike Lewis. I'm the Executive Program Director for the Coalition. My work is really based on project management. That's what I offer to the firm here. We have a joint situation in this case where we're working to restore a ship, to save a ship, and also we're working to redevelop the area where the ship will be. So my background in architecture and both design and construction project management supports both of those aspects of our work. I spent a lot of time on the water during my childhood and into adulthood. I had a lot of sailing experience when I was young, and my father had a merchant marine card because he played the piano on cruise liners for the Grace Line, and my mother and I accompanied him on a couple of those cruises. Later on, during college and after college, I was in the Navy, and I was at sea on a destroyer for 6 years. As I got into my architecture career, that spanned not only architecture on land, but it also included doing some design work at General Dynamics Electric Boat Division in Groton, Connecticut. I worked on designing some of the submarines. I'm in Washington, D.C., but I come from New England, and I have commuted back and forth quite heavily. On my way up and down on 95, going through Philadelphia, I always looked over to make sure that the SS United States was there with fondness. And then I learned that the ship was sold and that it was going to be sunk as a reef. And I became very concerned about that because of the design aspects of the ship and the importance historically of the ship. So that led me to join the New York Coalition. My first contact was with Jason Wade. And so what we have is a ship that is not only a beautiful, outstanding piece of naval architecture, but it is also a ship that carried notables, from political notables to celebrities. And in both cases, that solidifies the ship's history as a good representative of something to preserve. And we're out to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And last, joining us virtually is Mary Rower.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. Hi, everybody. Just want to say hello and thank you for tuning in today. I founded QMI, the community nonprofit for the Queen Mary, about 13 years ago. And since then, there's been many opportunities in learning about the Queen Mary's history that naturally I stumbled upon the history of the SS United States. It's in fact finding a lot of the friends that I had loved the two ships in common. I've made 2 trips to the ship. And what I saw was a blank canvas, an opportunity and hope. And we've followed it very closely for probably the past 5 or 6 years. We've contributed, we've had 2 exhibits on board to include the SS United States. There's currently an exhibit on board here down in the exhibit hall. And I don't think it really hit me until I saw the ship being towed. And that's when we really saw the possibility that she is the only liner left in the world that can sail the way she sailed, effortlessly, with no issues for 17 days. It just amazed me. So I was drawn to Jason Wade online, connected with him, and obviously offered any support that I could give on behalf of QMI, on behalf of all of our maritime friends. And, you know, you simply don't sink history. I grew up in Long Beach, and I think that what's going on with the world, with our maritime world, I think that we really need to revisit that, reinvest. And it's a beautiful ship, and people truly care about the ship. And I'm just honored to be here and working with this fine group of gentlemen that have made a stand for this ship. And I just implore everybody else to get involved, ask questions, and support however you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. All right, next for our program tonight, we're going to talk about the progress update. So we're going to start off with Dan McSweeney.
Dan, actually, Dan and I switched last minute on that.
Okay,
So
fair enough.
organizational. So to start things off, one of the biggest questions we've been getting in the community lately is if we are 501c3 and we can, without shadow of a doubt, say that we have submitted our application for 501c3 status, and that we are in the process of getting that rolling as we speak. So when that becomes solidified, we'll obviously let you guys know through social media. Stay tuned for that as those details come in the future. In terms of our initiative, we've had a lot of great progress so far. Since we launched our Facebook back in January, we have almost 400,000 views on our profile. Mind blowing. We started at the end of January and is taken off like wildfire, which is incredible. We have a little over 1,900 followers. We're pushing towards 2,000, and people are broadcasting our message so loud. It's traveling to YouTube. It's traveling through news articles. A couple of news entities have picked it up in Alabama, Florida, New York, and even in the UK, some other places as well. So we're definitely making good progress in our efforts. Our GoFundMe, we started that, and that is for the initiative to save the ship. In the meantime, while we're seeking assistance from the federal government, and that'll help us make sure that we're successful in the meantime. And we also have almost 7,000 signatures on our change.org petition. So at a minimum, 10,000 signatures means that the petition gets sent to the right entities and decision makers potentially can do something. Anything over 10,000 signatures is just a bonus. So right now, today, we're sitting at about 100 shy of 7,000. I'd love for it to go higher. If we can push to 10,000 or higher, that's definitely going to help us in our initiative. And then the last thing too, we've also established our presence. We're on X, we're on Blue Sky, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, Snapchat soon to come, but we're trying to make sure we're on all social media platforms. And we've been interacting with members in our community, doing TikTok and YouTube lives. So stay tuned. We definitely want to hear more from you guys. We definitely want to interact more with you.
All right, thank you, Jason. Next up,
Mary had a couple things too she wanted to add to.
hear from Mary.
I just wanted to add to that I've been assisting him with social media, and we're getting lots of questions, and to which we are answering most of the questions, everything that we can. We're tracking the questions, we're responding to people. That's a huge deal because I think there's definitely some areas there that we can get the information out quicker. Social media seems to be the place that everybody's gathered. So if you do have questions, continue to send them to us through the website or on Facebook, and we definitely will get a response back to you. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that I know that is tagged on, especially Hector Aponte. He's been doing a great job of linking everybody to today's event and helping in general. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mary. All right, next we will talk about the progress update with Dan McSweeney.
Check. Thank you so much, Jason and Mary. That might be a little loud, Dave. But the Q&A that Mary referenced is critically important, and nobody wants to hear people talk all night about the ship. We all love it, we all know it, but we want to hear what's going on. So we're going to give a brief update on the development side of things because, believe it or not, this has been tried before. I am a co-founder of the Conservancy, which owned the ship previously and sold it to Okaloosa. And I can tell you, the people that were involved in the Conservancy were extremely smart, extremely committed, talented, well-intentioned people. And we and they did everything they could to make something happen. It didn't occur. And that's no fault of the Conservancy. They were in a chicken or egg situation, specifically because that vessel was in Philadelphia. And although there were possibilities to bring it to other places, for example, Brooklyn, which we'll hear about, the cost of bringing the ship to Brooklyn was beyond the financial means of the Conservancy. And so luckily, they had a relationship with RXR and other donors and investors or potential investors that allowed the ship to survive in Philly the way that it did for as long as it did. And so we should be grateful for all the people that were involved in that. So just a little bit of context with regard to the previous owners of the ship and how I've been involved in this and have seen so many different attempts to make this thing work. When it comes to making it work, it really depends on three interlocking questions. The first is, what are the regulatory aspects of making the ship safe for a second use or a third use? Those are federal, state, and city type regulations, and they've got to be answered, and they're quite challenging. They have to do with remediation, they have to do with dredging, all kinds of very complicated issues that are often very expensive. The second group of questions is, how does the ship become financially viable? Because we don't want this to be a charity case. We want this ship to have a productive life by hosting a number of different uses. For example, could it be dining? Could it be residential? Could it be retail? Could it be educational? Some combination of those types of uses combined together are what will make this thing viable and therefore successful over the long term. Then the third set of questions is, where will the ship go and how will it get there? We happen to think as a New York coalition that John Quadrosi at Gowanus Bay Terminal offers probably the best chance of success to make the ship live out a successful second life. And so that's why we're partnering so closely with him. So just want to reinforce that the people that have been involved in this thing over the long term have been well-intentioned, and we have attempted to do everything that we could to make it work. Clearly, it didn't work out. And so this, in my opinion, is a final effort to make something happen. And I think with the talent and the commitment that we have represented in this organization, I think we'll be able to do that. Final thing I will say is my personal estimate on what it will take is $20 million to make the ship what we call a white box in Brooklyn. So in other words, a blank space that's completely remediated, that has 2 or 3 decks that could be used for a variety of purposes, that's blasted and painted, and so it looks brand new. And that will itself, the appearance of the ship near the Brooklyn Marine Terminal, which is right across from Gowanus Bay Terminal, is what's going to make this thing work. So we've had so many people try over so many years to make it happen. This, in my estimation, is the final effort. And I'm just grateful that we are here. I know there's a lot of people that don't necessarily think this can work. It's good to hear from them. We happen to think it will work, and we are committed to making it work, because if we don't, we lose this incredible symbol. So those are some of the facts and opinions that I'm offering here as the rest of the development plan is described to you. Please think about the questions that you want to ask, because the real value is in the give and take. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Dan. Next is Jim Mahoney.
Hi. I haven't introduced myself before. I'm not actually a member of the coalition board. I'm the attorney who has been a relative latecomer to the case and filed a federal lawsuit in the Northern District of Florida just at the beginning of the month on March 2nd. A bit of background, I'm a maritime lawyer. I teach as an adjunct at SUNY Maritime College in the Bronx. I'm a graduate at that institution. And just on a personal note, I first saw the Big U when I was on my first ship in 1980 in Norfolk, and was docked nearby, and I just walked over and saw this beautiful, beautiful vessel. And that's actually my last memory of seeing the vessel. So the coalition only got formed in October of 2024 after, well, let me just give you a little background here. For 30 years, for 3 decades, that vessel sat in Philadelphia. For part of the time, it was owned by Norwegian Cruise Lines, then the Conservancy. And then all of a sudden, in 2024, Penn Warehousing decided they wanted more money. And they ended up suing in state court. That got moved to federal court. Make a long story short, the judge, I think she ruled correctly. She said, well, the contract says it's at this amount and there's no limit to how long. But she said, well, you know, their demand for more, they're saying you got to vacate. So what did they tell the Conservancy? Well, after 3 decades of sitting there, the Conservancy had 3 months to move it, which is a crisis. I mean, you know, a 990-foot vessel has to be moved somewhere. It would have been nice if it had gone to Brooklyn. I think that would have worked, but it didn't happen. Anyway, now it's down in Alabama, ready to get chopped up and be sunk. So what did I do on March 2nd? Well, what I'm going to report here is three elements of what the coalition has done with our government intervention, or hopeful government intervention. And I'll do in the order of the Constitution. Congress first, right? Article 1, Congress. The coalition has written to Mark Kelly. Scott Kelly is his brother. Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona, who introduced, along with 3 other legislators, the Ships for America Act, which is supposed to, if it passed, and probably I hope it will refurbish American shipbuilding and engineering. Anyway, we, the coalition, have asked Kelly to intervene, but Congress moves kind of slowly. All right, branch 2, and that's probably the most important one, is the executive. And on February 10th, I distributed some of these letters. The coalition wrote to the president, asking the president to take the ship for public use. Private property can be taken for public use under the Constitution by paying the owners just compensation. Okaloosa County has paid $1 million for the ship, paid some money to keep it at the yard for a while, not the yard, the Philadelphia pier. They also paid to have it towed down there. So maybe they get $2, $3, $4 million, whatever, from Uncle Sam. But it could happen. And in fact, there are 2 statutes from the 1970s that expressly authorize the taking of the United States for public use. The United States subsidized the building of this vessel at an unprecedented 50% back in the 40s. That was, a wonderful book, by the way. Got to give a plug for Stephen Ujafus's book. I'm just finishing it now. A whole history of the naval architect, William Francis Gibbs, who came up with the idea, and how there were these battles to even build it. And this is an American achievement beyond compare. But anyway, getting back to the storyline, the coalition has written to Trump asking the executive branch to step in and take the vessel for public use. Because if we don't, we're going to lose something forever. And the third branch, of course, some people call it the least dangerous branch, is the judiciary. And that's where I came in. On March 2nd, just before the ship arrived in Alabama, in fact, at 1:45, I filed this electronically because I wanted to have a date of March 2nd because I knew it was going to get into March 3rd. The coalition filed a case. Okaloosa County is the defendant. It's in federal court in Northern District of Florida, where by fate or coincidence, I happen to have been admitted since 2012. I mean, and I get this call. I'm like, can you help us? Well, I happen to be admitted there. That's, I never did much work there, but I'm a maritime attorney on this one case. So the lawsuit doesn't seek any money. Most people think when you sue, you're looking for money. We're not suing Okaloosa County for money. What we're doing is trying to get a little time that Okaloosa County will, either under force of law or under force of moral courage, hold off cutting this vessel up. It's now in the Alabama shipyard. The goal is to sink it. So the superstructure, one of the things that made this vessel amazing, the superstructure is all aluminum because it's so light. So these stacks and everything above the main deck is made out of aluminum because it's super lightweight. And that's not going to be sunk. That's going to be cut up. But once it's cut off, the game is over. Well, maybe you could reattach it. But, the bottom line is what we're asking for in the lawsuit, I framed it as interim or transient equitable relief. Equitable relief is when you ask a court to have a party do or not do something. And so that's what the lawsuit has asked for. At this point, I and Mr. Kaplan and David Burke, Dan Burke over there, have been on the phone with the Okaloosa County attorneys, and we've asked if they would just hold off. And they haven't said yes, but they haven't said no. And I'm hoping that, honestly, given the stakes here, that the owners of the vessel, which rightfully is Okaloosa County, will just at least wait and see if the executive branch weighs in on it. The executive branch is brand new, and we can make a lot of comments about what's going on in the White House, but the bottom line is it should get to the attention of the president, and I urge everybody, right, because this is where history is being made right now. This is the crossroads, and if the vessel is sunk, that's it. It's gone. But this is an amazing American achievement. I really urge you to read that book. And if it doesn't get saved, okay, it's permanent. But if it just stays afloat for a little while longer, the options stay open. And the timing of everything, the Ships for America Act, Trump is on board with resurrecting American shipbuilding. Imagine if this could be a national landmark and a place where students, high school students, just like here in Tenafly, many of these students could go and be put up in a room and see this amazing achievement. The engines don't have to work. Just look at the hull. Look at the build, and get an introduction to what it means to be a naval architect or marine engineer, and have this as an education center. The possibilities are just really. I don't know, what do I want to say? Mind-boggling, mouth-watering? I mean, it's just, the possibilities are great. And yet, here we are at the fringe, at the edge of possibly sinking it and closing all that off. So all I'm asking for in the lawsuit is time. And at this point, the county will put their answer in toward the end of the month. And I haven't made any motions in the case. If you want the judge to do something, you have to make a motion. But I'm really kind of hoping that the county will recognize what's at stake, that this is an interest of not just a local government on the Gulf of Mexico or America or Margaritaville, whatever you want to call that Gulf. But the bottom line is it's a national interest. This is something that the U.S. put a lot of effort and time and thought into to build. And it's something that we have, it's not been achieved before or since. Anyway, those are my closing thoughts. I'd like to open up for questions if that's the next phase.
So the plan, the development ideas for the terminal, I'll speak briefly on. Gowanus Bay Terminal, we dub it GBX, is a large marine facility in South Red Hook, Brooklyn. Historically, was built in 1922 by the state of New York as a terminus to revitalize the barge canal system, AKA Erie Canal, that we all know of. It was a public place. It was a public facility for the grainsmen to transport their grains by barge for transatlantic shipping markets. So, and it continues as a bulk facility today in some regards, not for grain, but construction and heavy materials, fuel oil, etc. Coincidentally, GBX was also the last mooring of the SS Normandy, the vessel I spoke of earlier, where my Uncle Willie sat and watched that ship burn in Manhattan. So its last destination was GBX, which is the same place where we're proposing to put the SS United States. So there's been a lot of questions about, well, will it fit there? It'll fit there, and we could put a few others if we need to. But also just coincidental that these ships keep coming to me in one form or another. So today we're proposing the SS United States for Gowanus Bay Terminal. We are proposing a dynamic environment. Dan spoke a little bit where we're focusing on marine education. We also have programs for native saltwater marsh environmental remediation, classrooms for elementary school, upper school, and even international studies. Think of it as a global think tank aboard a ship. Additionally, we feel it will be wonderful cultural and community type uses, including recreations, commercial shops, restaurants, etc. The ship has approximately 600,000 feet of space. So you can just imagine the possibilities. We're only touching on the obvious. We're proposing a phased development, like Dan also mentioned, where instead of just looking at the whole ball of wax and saying, oh, how much money it's going to cost to save the ship and where we're going to get the money. It can be done in a phased development, as many development projects are done. The World Trade Center was not filled up the first day they decided to build the World Trade Center. So phased development, leasing out spaces for various uses as we go along, and floor by floor continuing with that process. We're also entertaining community engagement in this as well. Thoughts about people from the community and all around the world. What can we do with this ship, this great ship? Oh, I have a comment here. So rather than having it lavish like it did in Philly, we would allow the ship develop in phases. And then I wrote, Rome wasn't built in a day. Rather, it was more of a process which we want to take on again with the SS United States in the 21st century. We see it as the big U taking another bite at the Big Apple, which was originally her home port. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Sorry. Hello, my name is Peter Mitchell. I've come all the way from London, England, especially for this evening. So in 1935, we scrapped the RMS Olympic, the biggest mistake our country ever made. Nowadays, we would totally regret it in England. We didn't regret it at the time because it brought a lot of jobs, but now we regret it. And the same for the U. It's got to be saved. It's the fastest, the blue ribbon holder. And although I'm not American, it's a pride of your nation. And I totally understand where you're all coming from about trying to save it, and I totally agree with you 100%, and I totally support the coalition. And a little note to Okaloosa Council, please, please listen to us. This is the pride of your country. Do not sink this ship. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Heiler, we have Dr.
Really quick, I
George.
just wanted to give, if you don't mind, I want to give Peter a quick shout out too. Thank you, Peter, for your pledge and your support and giving as much support as we could ever ask for, sharing the word, communicating with Okaloosa County. We really appreciate you. Thank you.
Josh?
We're proposing something very similar to what you see on the SS Rotterdam, where you have structures in the water, and the vessel is not necessarily right against the dock. So this allows for greater movement of the ship, while allowing light to penetrate between the ship and the pier.
Okay.
For environmental.
So it's permanent mooring.
It'd be a permanent mooring.
It'll have all the electricity and the sewage and water and everything going through the dock, the terminal.
That would have to be designed, but we are proposing sustainable systems, water cleaning systems, natural power generation systems with solar and wind and so forth, and even something called anaerobic digesting, where we use food grade waste and produce energy from that. So there's a number of special things that we would like to do with the ship.
Okay.
Let me introduce myself very quickly. I'm the president of Guernsey's, the New York City-based auction house. And is this any better? I'm off the speaker now. Early in 1984, I had heard through the grapevine that the SS United States was about to be towed out to sea, and the entire contents of the ship, everything from the linen to the lifeboats, was about to be dumped overboard. The ship for the prior 15 years had been kept in mothballs in Norfolk, Virginia, locked up by the government because, as many know, it was able to be used as a troop carrier in time of national emergency. So the government installed dehumidification equipment throughout the interior of the ship, covered the portholes and entryways with tar. So although the outside of the ship looked like hell, the inside was bone dry and pristine. But at that point, in 1979, thereabouts, after being in mothballs for 10 years, a West Coast syndicate acquired the ship for the purpose of converting her from the sleek ocean liner that she was to a slow-moving love boat type cruise ship, capable of going from the West Coast to the East Coast via the Panama Canal, which it could squeak through literally by inches. And to convert her, to open up the enclosed promenades and to make her comfortable for cruising in the gentle weather of the Caribbean, everything on board, the modernist design, was going to be eliminated. And the easiest way these owners saw fit to doing that was to tow her out to sea 400 miles with a big crew on board and dump everything into the Atlantic. I had seen that ship as a boy growing up in New York as it was docked on the Hudson, and I just couldn't conceive of such a dumping. I thought that was just a terrible situation. So I quickly went to the owners of the ship and proposed an auction as a way to preserve the items. They liked the idea so much that rather than go with me and our upstart little auction house, which had been in business a couple of years, they went to Sotheby's and Christie's, the world's largest auction house. Fortunately for us, Sotheby's and Christie's said if they had 10 years to produce that auction, it would be too logistically difficult. It just couldn't be done. So the owners of the ship came back to me, said, okay, big shot, you want to do it? You have 3 months. And that's where the saga really begins. And in discussions with Jason Wade of this wonderful group dedicated to preserving the ship, plans are afoot to take it from that point when we got started and to spend an evening where I'd be able to, for anyone interested, describe many of the remarkable circumstances that occurred over those next several months in producing what to this day ended up being the world's largest auction. I wish you all the best in this effort to save the Big U, and that's about it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dan?
I want to just synthesize a lot of what I heard this evening because thank God there is the goodwill by so many people to get involved and to have this sentiment that the ship needs to be saved. However, sentiment is really not enough, unfortunately. What we need is investors, we need government support, and we need to expand this community of people that believe in the future of the ship. Without those three things, without one of those three things, we will fail. So I just want us to be real about what we're facing, number one. Number two, it's fascinating that the gentleman from Maine has proposed the ship as a place for detainees on their way out of the country when the purpose of the vessel in so many ways was to bring immigrants into America. I do not agree personally with that as a use for the vessel. However, there are a variety of opinions. There are a variety of political perspectives. That is reality. And all of us must come together and do what we can. Sign the petition, raise money, contact Congress, write to the White House, etc. if this thing's going to work, because if we don't do that, we're going to fail once again, and we will never have the opportunity again. So I don't want to end on a negative note. I want to end on a note of gratitude for the incredible community online and here in this room, and for the Tenafly people that have made this a reality as our first step forward. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight.